All right, everybody, I've started another book, and I was so impressed with that last book that I read by Italo Calvino that I got another book of his called Invisible Cities. And I just wanted to go over my initial impressions here before I got too far into the book, kind of, allow myself some time to get my own thoughts out of the way of what the book is thinking. And my initial impression has to do with sort of the book's introduction and the way in which somebody is trying to value words. They're trying to create this value of words. And it almost relates a little bit to the idea that I had the other day, where it's like we're all seeking solidity, but air is in the way. And so we try to diminish all the air. But then in the state of having no air, it's like we're nowhere. And so we breathe some air and realize that everything is the same. Air, while it disperses and creates this refraction of light, it actually causes there to be a line, straight and clear, and as memorable as time. So in this way, natural things such as mountain peaks, the sun in the sky, and the way the ocean glints and speckles into our eye has a moment to it. We can discern direction. And that's sort of my first inflection point of this book here, is in trying to understand the value of something that you almost can't understand, given by the intro. Anthony Doerr, where he's trying to surmise the totality of the book, but in the end, he sort of relinquishes. And I think that in a lot of ways, it's that idea of somebody who's well-read confronts when they read. Where you're continually trying to think of things for yourself. And so I think the main thing that I want to touch upon, and the first thing I want to touch upon, is speed. That idea that you know where you're going, that idea that you know anything. Maybe when we're really going somewhere, the only thing we can know is nothing. And why is that? Because speed is what gives us the idea that we're going somewhere. It allows us to see motion. But for us to speed ourselves, it means that we adhere to principles and to geometries which are themselves the most basic, fundamental. And in this way, we trick ourselves into thinking that complex things are what take up the screen, when really all we're doing is noticing the motion of things. It's a stirring, it's a welling, it's basic emotion. Our left brain, our right brain, they mix together chemical signals which create potions. And in this, the idea of motion is basic, because it's built off of basic things that speed past your brain through frames that are unseen. And in that way, I feel like that's how this book is actually riveting, because you're reading something that's basic with motion. And if you try to understand it without taking into consideration what I've just spoken, that it's basic things, and it's the speed that brings the idea that you're actually going somewhere. And that's the first thing that I recognized in this book, is that it's just an order of things that are so basic, but they're so fast that you can't help but feel like they're complex. But if you don't look at them like the way that I've just stated, then you're going to feel as though you don't understand their motion. Ego is a complex thing, it's identity. But do we even know ourselves in totality? If we did, would we not know everything that we liked and what we could invest in? But on the other side, being a kid, being a child, is this more or less telling? Where we pursue interests at a glance. Do we truly understand why things are attractive? Why they work the way that they do? Or again, are we just being taken on a ride? And that's really all emotion is movement. And that's all that there really is to being a kid. So one side of us moves, one side of us tries to stay the same. And we try to keep both things within our frame. And I think that the next thing that is very telling in this book is the way in which we view authority. The next thing that came to my mind was we try to categorize things in existence, persons, places, things, right? And I think that the next thing that I really noticed was, I'm reading a book, and just because it's in this beautiful binding, and it's seen as something in which people derive much wisdom in, and being somebody of culture, and somehow having some classica and fortuita and omnipota type of vibe associated with books, it again comes up against this idea of creation, right?
I didn't get that. Try again.
Where when we read an introduction to a book, do we identify this as a man, or do we identify it as law? And right there is another sort of tangible argument in which one can get into, and that is, what is the law? Is the law what we can or cannot do, or is there an altruistic law, one of which there is a best law? Is the best law the most true? Because then what is the law? But maybe it's you. And if you understand that maybe it's just you, how do you value things? Again, it goes back to that idea that I had about oxygen, where oxygen, and the idea of having your cake and making it too, was just this whole idea that in birth, it was almost everyone but you. As for in birthdays, it seems like you're the one who doesn't pick the plays. Sort of, symbolic as the idea of receiving a spanking upon your birth to deliver that initial burst of oxygen. This idea that all of this is real. What is it based upon? Some might say opposition, but I say uncertainty. I say that what we don't necessarily think of as law or as authority in this life is the principle of unpredictability. And that reverts back to our idea of the law, right? Is that what is the law? Is the law what can happen and what cannot happen, which means that is life fair? Is life fair? Is there truth? Is there real power or real authority? Do we actually know which way we're going? And that's the second thought that I really came into as I was sort of reading this book here. Are you going to let this author lead you along? What about the introduction? Did it do it right or did it do it wrong? And I think that that's the sense that I'm getting from this book, is it's unpredictable. You might not like it if you believe that life is fair or should be fair, but it's in that unpredictable space that I feel like maybe we can actually know we're here. And maybe the book is sort of like a reflective mirror. How unpredictable do you think you are? Well, do you actually know yourself? Or are you alive? Because if you are alive, then maybe you're more than you think you are. Are you ready to go that far? Do you believe in yourself so much that you can trust yourself so much when you don't really even know what you're composed of or what you're made of? And is it scary to think what you might do when you don't know those things too? And I think that that's where my whole reflection as to what the ideas are when a reader reads. And that's the second thing that I'm getting from this book, is it's sort of meant for readers who have read a lot, because at some point in time, it's all just the same plot. Are we reading or are we writing? In our head, it seems like we're certainly recording. And what do we really wish to record as writers or as readers? And whose introduction did you like better? Mine or Anthony Doerr's? Because maybe it's all about you.